Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. It was.
Oh, okay, that's weird. I went through my entire introduction and my screen froze. Okay, that's super inconvenient. Welcome back to the OurSF Hour. I'm Ryan. You can call me Splash. You can call me whatever the heck you want. I'm going to be joined today by Raj. How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. It's been a good week. We got the scheduled release finally came out. That was exciting. Rookie minicamp started for the Niners, so it was another one of those good, busy weeks of football, especially for Niner fans. So I'm feeling good.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right in. Schedules released 7:45 Eastern Wednesday night, quote unquote. There were leaks all day. I know early in the morning they went on a round saying, "Oh, well, week one's going to be Carolina, New York, and Baltimore, Vegas, and Green Bay, New Orleans, and San Francisco, Detroit, right?"
Yeah, they leaked that this week, early in the morning.
So what initial, like when you saw the schedule, what did you like? What was your first word out of your mouth?
So yeah, throughout the day there was leaks, and we were dropping the reports and stuff. And then when I finally saw the actual full schedule, at the in the middle of towards the end of the day in the evening, I was just the first words were just like, "Let's go!" I was excited just because now you can plan what's going on. You get to see what the schedule looks like, where we're gonna match up with, and I was excited. And then I really processed it. Then we went live, and Smitty and myself and everybody else that we go live with on our show on Fridays, we did a special edition show, and we just broke it down, and we were all excited. I think that's the biggest takeaway from it is just you're excited because now football is getting closer. You know who you're playing with, and my favorite matchup, I think, just early in the season, is that Green Bay game, home opener against the Packers. The last time we played them was our last home game in the NFC Championship in 2019, and we crushed them. And then last season was just a weird home game in front of fans, I should say. Our last home game in front of fans.
Right.
And the fans are back this season, so it's going to be the first time to get the fans back in since the last time we, had fans. And this is a big game. I'm excited. I'm going to be there at that game. That's going to be a phenomenal game.
Absolutely, and you love to see it early in the season. Get Green Bay off mark them off the list early, and that's a matchup when San Francisco's healthy. I really like San Francisco, and we saw it twice in 2019 that Green Bay kind of just throws their hands up in the air when the San Francisco running game is working, and when you have a healthy quarterback, that helps the running game. When you have a healthy George Kittle, that helps the running game. And it's just, I think last year was an overall screwy season for the 49ers, and I think that's when I looked at the schedule, I saw lots of wins. The division's going to be tough per usual. I get it, but there's a lot of winnable games. There's a lot of little stretches that, hey, San Francisco is going to win 2 or 3 or 4 in a row here, and that's always nice to have when you have that first glance at the schedule. And I think some people are going to kind of overrate the Niners, underrate the Niners, and say, well, they went 6-10 last year. Sure, they did, absolutely. But this is a team that you were hilariously unhealthy last year, and this year everyone's going to be back. And assuming, this is a bold assumption, assuming you don't have anomaly after anomaly after anomaly of injury, San Francisco, even if with moderate health, San Francisco is I think a powerhouse, really.
No, I agree, and we talk about that a lot of injuries. And last season, injuries really kicked their butt. They won 6 games with their backup quarterback pretty much starting most of the season. So, and half of their team was on the injured reserve. You had Nick Bosa, George Kittle were hurt, Deebo Samuel. Most of your players were hurt. Your great players were hurt. And then the O-line was like a patchwork O-line. They had to put, practice squad guys to start at center. Now they revamped the O-line. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of players coming back healthy. So I think that this season, this team is a strong team. And with that, it's going to make this team, a hard opponent on the schedule. Nobody's going to want to play the Niners come Sundays or whatever day they play them. It's going to be a tough draw when you play the Niners every weekend. And that's why I said the Packers, last time we played them, we saw what happened. And last year we played them. They weren't, it was a whole different team. We had Richie James as our top receiver that game because everybody was hurt. So definitely excited about this season because, like you said, everybody's coming back healthy. You got the return of Nick Bosa. We got some great rookies that we drafted. You got Alex Mack in there, a lot of free agents that you were able to sign on top of the guys that they brought back, Trent Williams and everybody we've talked about this offseason. So this schedule, I think it really lines up well for the Niners. There's a few pitfalls and some big things that they got to face because they have the most miles that they got to travel in the NFL of all teams. They got an early bye week. That might be tough. An extra game this season, that's going to make some wear and tear. But I think the depth of this team, they drafted really good to stack depth. That's going to bode well for them because it's going to be a long season for everybody in the NFL. And the Niners, again, with that early bye, it's going to really test their legs towards the end of the season. Because I think week 6, if they want to make it to the Super Bowl, it's like 16 weeks in a row. You got to win out for that. So you don't have to win out, but you got to play really strong football for a long period of time at the end of the season without a break. There's some teams that have like a week 14 bye. I mean, that'd be huge for those teams going into the playoffs if they make it. So overall, I think the Niners, my prediction is 13 wins overall. If they can stay healthy, I can't see them winning or losing too many games. But I think they should win at least 11 games this season if they stay healthy. At least 11 games. This is a good team. But the NFC West, like you said, is a very, very tough division. So it's going to be a battle.
Absolutely. I made my inaugural predictions like with the standings with the actual schedule released, and I have San Francisco at 12 wins. I'm blanking on the losses, but I would imagine I think I had them splitting with everyone in the division, then maybe losing to maybe Green Bay. I don't remember what I picked for that one, but like a loss here, a loss there, maybe a loss to someone in the AFC South, either Indy or Tennessee.
Yeah.
Either way, I think San Francisco is very good. I was getting flack. People were calling me 49er fan, or people were calling me a 49ers fan when I posted my power rankings in March when I had them at number 4. And I dropped them a little bit. I had Buffalo, Green Bay move up and have them at 7. And I was still getting like, how are the 49ers this good? I mean, did you watch them in 2019? Did you watch them when fully healthy? Like, they went to the Super Bowl for a reason, and they had a stranglehold on the Super Bowl. Teams don't do that without a lot of talent. And, sure, they had a bad 2020 season, but you see it every year. There's these teams that go worst to first. There's these teams that overachieve considering what they did the year before. And look no further than the 2019 49ers. They were coming off a season that they earned the number 2 pick for good reason. They grabbed Nick Bosa and said, hey, let's go to the Super Bowl this year. Why not? And then they're the best team in the NFL. Baltimore is the best team in the regular season, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
San Francisco was awesome all season.
I agree. And I think a lot of that's going to be very similar to this year because a lot of those players are still on the team. They still have a great team, kind of very similar to that 2019 team that made that Super Bowl run. You have Debo, Kittle. You have, Fred Warner, Drake Greenlaw. Those are really key pieces. Nick Bosa. And they've added to that, with Trent Williams, and now they also have, Alex Mack, like we talked about, and Kyle Juszczyk is still there, so they still have a very similar team. Fred or Jimmy Ward, like I said, most of the players are still intact from that run. It's just being able to stay healthy. As far as the schedule, there probably is always going to be a trap game, like for example. The Bengals game. I know that people are going to say, oh, you're going to crush the Bengals. But, hey, that part of the schedule is a little crazy because you go on the road a lot. All the miles you're going to travel. You might be tired at that point. I think the Bengals are going to be an up-and-coming team. They're going to be a surprising team to me. You got Joe Burrow. You got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think that offense will be fun. It might be a test to play them. And I know people are going to be like, Bengals, you should crush them. But, that to me is a game that smells like a trap game. Maybe even the Falcons, that could be a trap game. Again, a lot of traveling toward the end of the season. I have us beating the Rams. I think we're going to sweep the Rams again because we kind of have their number. Sean McVay,
right? He
struggles against the Niners no matter what. Aaron Donald, they come to play against Donald. They know they got to bring their A game. That's a good team, but the difference this season is they got a way different quarterback, Matt Stafford, than Jared Goff. And is he going to make the team better? How's he going to adjust? I think there's going to be an acclimation period for him to kind of get his bearings down with the team and get some chemistry, but I still think they'll be good. I think we're going to split with the Cardinals. That's a tough matchup. Kyler gives us fits, but that second game we played them, it seems like we played them a little bit better. We kind of matched up against them. I think they kind of maybe not figured them out, but they kind of schemed up a little bit better as far as that running quarterback. And now we have Trey Lance, so I think that's going to really help them in practice with the defense. New defensive coordinator, see what looks he gives us. And then I have a splitting with Seattle. I mean, Seattle always gives us trouble. I can't see us going into Seattle and beating them, but hey, you never know.
Right.
And then I got us losing, like you said, to one of the AFC South teams, Colts and Tennessee. I think we might lose. We could lose both of those games. Those are tough games. But the Colts, we have them at home, so I think that'll be a tough game. They got a good defense. Tennessee.
The return of Buckner.
Yeah, exactly. Return of Buckner, man. I was talking about that the other day. That's sad. His first game against the Niners since he was traded. There's going to be a lot of emotions there. Him and Armstead, I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot when that game gets closer. So, I mean, I can see us losing those games. I don't really see us losing too many more games. There's going to be a game that we lose that we don't expect, though. Like, we're looking at the schedule. Like, Minnesota, I think we could go in there and handle them. But you never know. Minnesota might be one of those matchups where you're like, damn, they're better than I thought. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
Actually, on the U Stadium app yesterday, I made this parallel that Minnesota is the one team in the NFL that has three parts of an awesome run game. They have awesome scheme with the Kubiak. I don't think he's the OC anymore, but the Kubiak branch of the rushing attack. They're gonna have an elite offensive line in terms of run blocking at least. And then you throw in Dalvin Cook. I don't think any other team has all three. Like, say, San Francisco has an awesome scheme, or Baltimore has an awesome scheme and Lamar Jackson, or Tennessee has good run blockers and Derrick Henry. But no team has all three. Minnesota has all three, and that could be an interesting game. I think I mentioned it on the show yesterday as one of the games I was excited for. But one thing that is interesting to me is looking at when you play the Rams. You play them week 10 and you play them week 18.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're gonna have film on Stafford in LA, and you're gonna see is this team like God tier, or is this team are they ironing out kinks? So I think there's a double-edged sword that you play them later in the season, so you know what they're doing, but at the same time, they could be ironing out kinks that if you caught them in week 3, you might blow the doors off them because you're running essentially the same system and they're integrating an entirely new quarterback. And hypothetically, San Francisco could be integrating a new quarterback, which I think they should do. I've been on record and said I think Lance should start week 1. You have Detroit, you have Philadelphia. Those are probably the two easiest defenses you're going to play all season. Why not throw Lance into the fire there? And then you're rocking with two wins early in the season, and Lance is firing on all cylinders. If I'm a Niners fan, I'd love to see that.
I think most Niner fans would, and we've talked about that a lot. And again, it's really going to depend on how he picks up that playbook and training camp, which, mini camp for rookies started yesterday. So that's going to be the process. And I think you're right. I think if he was inserted in the lineup week 1, I think the Niners can beat the Lions, and in Philadelphia. Those are two games that, because of how strong this team is, you got a run game, you got the defense. I think they can do enough with a young Trey Lance to get in and win those games. So I agree. If he starts week 1, I wouldn't be surprised. We've talked about this, but again, it's going to be a training camp battle. Now, as far as the Rams, I agree with that. Is early on the season, there's going to be an adjustment period, like I had said. But week 10, that's going to be a tougher matchup because they've already kind of adjusted with life with Stafford. They may be a little bit of a harder team, and again, that defense will be rolling by then with Ramsey and Donald. Those two guys are probably the two best players at their position, so it's going to be a battle regardless.
Right.
I was looking also at the schedule, and I kind of, somebody asked me the other day, what are the games that you really look forward to? And of course, Green Bay, the rival, those division games and things like that. But really looking at the Chicago matchup and the Jacksonville matchup, they have two young quarterbacks. You got Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, you got Justin Fields in Chicago. Those two quarterbacks might be, well, of course, Trevor Lawrence is going to be playing, but Justin Fields might be in the lineup for Chicago. And if Trey Lance is in the lineup for the Niners by that period, those are going to be two fun matchups, especially Justin Fields and Trey Lance, because a lot of Niner fans, including myself, we have wanted Justin Fields on this team. Can you imagine Justin Fields, Trey Lance, week 8, we're really going to get to see the battle. And that's going to be a battle for years to come. But the first time you get to see these guys, you get to really see who gets the first blood, who gets to draw first blood. That is going to be
Absolutely.
a fun match if it happens. And
Mm-hmm.
I think most Niner fans really want to see that matchup, from what I understand. So we'll see.
Right. So we're gonna transition a little bit. I'm gonna throw this Bleacher Report graphic. How are you rocking with Bleacher Report hating on San Francisco 8-9?
Man, we posted this the other day. I saw that and I was like, oh man. I mean, I was getting a lot of mentions, and I got to post this because I wanted to see what the fans felt, and you could pretty much see from the comments is, nah, they don't like it. That's not it, man. And again, I think they just don't realize what we had said earlier in the broadcast is the fact that the Niners dealt with a lot of injuries. You got Kittle coming back, Raheem Mostert. You have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk a full season with, a healthy quarterback most likely. You got Alex Mack, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. All these players are coming back.
Right.
To think that they're only going to win 8 games, man, that is ridiculous. To me, I think they can at least win 11 games. Bleacher Report, I think they're sleeping on the Niners, but hey, let them sleep, because whenever the Niners get doubted, and they remember a couple years ago, the Pretenders, and everybody doubted the team. They went to the Super Bowl. So I actually love when the Niners are underdogs and counted out, because it fuels the team. It's bulletin board material for the locker room, and I think it's going to be great. As long as we keep getting doubted, they're going to feed off that. And again, this season, the return of the fans, that's another big aspect. I think that is something that's going to be huge, because they kind of push the team to play better. You can be in a rut in the game, and the fans kind of give you that energy, that spark, and then you could take over a game. You get that momentum. When you don't have fans, you couldn't get that momentum. You start losing, and it's hard to get, the other team taken out of their mojo. And I think that's going to help us with the fans back. And I don't think people are counting on that enough. That's going to be a big aspect. And there was a report the other day that the Niners, they anticipate to have a full capacity stadium. Again, there's going to be some things that could hold that up, but their plans this season is to have full capacity at Levi Stadium. And if that happens, it's going to be trouble for teams, because that 2019, that stadium was starting to get rocking, man. I remember being there. It was quite the place.
Yeah, I would imagine when you have a loaded team like that, offense, defense, and even your special teams are fine. And in 2019, San Francisco wasn't just good, wasn't just, they went to the Super Bowl. They were dominating teams. They were clapping teams. They killed Green Bay both times they played. And off the top of my head, there were only a couple games that it was even close. Like the Baltimore-San Francisco game was close. But outside of that, and then the game in Landover that was just a blizzard or a hurricane was like 9-0.
Yeah.
When 9-0 is the closest and most boring, that was a lot of fun. That game was a lot of fun to me. It was boring. If that's your most boring game, you're doing something right in terms of at least like playing exciting football. In San Francisco, sure, it's the run game more than the pass, but George Kittle is as exciting of a tight end as it gets. Deebo, Ayuk are yak threats all day, every day. And if Trey Lance starts week 1, you better believe, granted, San Francisco doesn't start at home, but if Trey Lance is starting by week 3, you better believe everyone at Levi Stadium is rocking.
They're going to be hyped up. But even if he doesn't, they're going to be hyped up. I think they're going to just be excited for this, because, again, there's so much to be, hyped up about and just excited. But you're right. And I think that takes me to our next segue is, training camp. Again, we've talked about it. That's the battle that we all want to see. And yesterday, rookie minicamp opened. And I think a lot of people were excited just to see Trey Lance throw. The media was able to go yesterday, and there was a lot of video highlights, and there was clips, and it was exciting to see Trey Lance finally in a 49ers jersey. Seeing him in a 49ers jersey was just like, oh, wow. Can you imagine? It was just, you finally see it. He looked good. Of course, he's not playing in the pads and everything, but his footwork, the release of the football, I mean, it just looked nice, man. Here he was. This is his first rep warming up with the Niners yesterday. It's just nice to see it, and look at that, drop back, and you can tell something magical's in the air.
Absolutely.
With Trey Lance there. And he looked, there was a report of how he did yesterday. I'm going to pull that up. Let's see. I mean, of course, it's first practice. You take everything with a grain of salt. But they said that he seemed efficient. He was throwing mainly underneath, short check downs. He hit a 15-yard bullet at one point. He was 19 of 24, so he was pretty efficient. There was a pick, but that pick, we got to talk about that because that was like the play of the day yesterday. And it was a big time. This highlight went all over the place on Twitter. This guy, Demador Lenore, or yeah, I
The
think that's
name
it.
Hall of Fame already wants him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Deion Sanders, man, he tweeted and he says, "This kid, what did he say? He said somebody called the police because that was aggravated assault. So he was 1-on-1 with the wide receiver, undrafted out of UAB, Austin Watkins, and I mean he just was physical, beat him at the line, and he makes this interception, and it was like the play of the camp yesterday. And yeah, okay, Trey throws the pick, but it wasn't even Trey's fault. The play that the cornerback made, Lenore, was absolutely fantastic. So just seeing these rookies getting out there and competing is exciting. And this kid Lenore already making some noise. So when you have young talent on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be exciting for this defense. And like I said, the depth is such a big part of what we really need on this team because it's going to be a long season. When you got these young kids like Lenore making plays, it's going to be exciting. So hopefully that translates a little bit more into training camp and then preseason. And that's why it's really important this year that we're having the mini camp, we're having the training and preseason because last season these rookies didn't have it. They were thrown into the fire. I think these rookies are going to come in. They're going to be a lot more sharp than the rookies were last year for this team. So,
and I think one thing to note is when you have these interceptions in camp, I know a couple of years ago, Garoppolo had like 5 interceptions on the first day, something stupid like that, that not every interception, at least in a practice setting, is bad. Some of them are great defensive plays, like you mentioned with Lenore. If this man makes like a diving, all-out extension, full, whatever adjective you want to describe it with, if he makes this ridiculous interception, that's more on him than Lance throwing a bad pass.
Yeah.
There are going to be some interceptions that are horrendous. We've seen them in the NFL before. We're going to see them in practice, and there are going to be some dropped interceptions that Lance hits Lenore in the numbers, and Lenore forgets how to play football for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
this is going to happen. They're rookies. It's okay. It happens. And one thing that I want to touch on is how do you think this camp, this offseason is going to help your second-year players, the Javon Kinlaws of the world, the Brandon Ayuks of the world? I think it might be more helpful to them than some of these rookies that, like, they are already in the NFL life, but they weren't maybe as technically sound as you might want because there was no, like, team activities last year were so weird compared to what they are this year and moving forward that this is going to be a huge boost for the second-year guys.
Yeah, again, and that's what I was saying is last season these rookies were thrown into the fire. They didn't have rookie minicamp. There was like a 2-week training camp, OTA. It was weird. And then no preseason. So it was like you're doing this ramp up and then here you go, rookie. Let's play football. And it was weird. Like I remember the training, they had these like little tents, individual tents because they had to do the 6 feet of separation, the COVID precautions, and it was so weird. It was like a little tent with your little weights. They set it up on the floor. You have your weights set and you're doing these exercises. That was your training, your weight training. You didn't really get to use the facility. And then, they go run out on the field and they do a little bit of activities here and there. But I'm sure they weren't going in as hard as they could have been because there are certain precautions they had to maintain. So it was weird, man. I really think you're right. The second-year players, now that they have that, the understanding of what it takes to play in the league and what kind of things that the players or the coaches are looking for, I think it's going to make things a lot more understandable for the game, and it's going to make it easier for them. So now when they go into training, they're going to know what they need to focus on, what techniques. Like Kinlaw, he's going to be like, okay, last season I was really messing up on this technique on pass rush or whatever. And he's going to be able to work on that. So I think it's going to be really critical for these guys. They didn't get that. They were just, like I said, here comes a little bit of training. Here comes the season. They had no clue of what was going on to be in the NFL. You need that welcome to the NFL moment. And I think this season they'll be able to kind of acclimate themselves more and work their way into a better, position to play this season. I think it's going to be a very big, important part for not only the rookies, but like you said, those second-year players, man, they need this to get back in there because they're learning. They have to know what they need to do better to improve upon that first year. Because if not, that sophomore slump it's a real thing in the NFL, and hopefully we can avoid that with some of these players. We don't want to have these players start falling. So this training is critical for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on it that, say, Javon Kinlaw, he can look at his 2020 tape and say, maybe this bull rush didn't work. Maybe this swim move didn't work. And he can not only workshop that, but instead of workshopping it based on his college film, based on what he did at South Carolina, he's doing it with, how did I perform against Damian Lewis, who I'm going to play twice every year for the next 10 years? How did I do against Jenkins and Lindsley of Green Bay? How did I do against actual NFL players, actual Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber guys? He's not saying, how did I do against, say, Tennessee Trey Smith, right, who was in college and 2 years away from being drafted, or how did I do against random Georgia offensive linemen? No, he's comparing it to Pro Bowlers and All Pros that have established themselves as Pro Bowlers and All Pros.
Yeah.
And this year, when you play Indianapolis and you get a Kinlaw versus Quentin Nelson rep, which is going to be one of the most exciting reps of the entire season, when you get one of those reps, Kinlaw's going to be more prepared for it because he gets to see, hey, look, this worked against Jenkins. This worked against Lindsley. This didn't work against them. This didn't work against Damian Lewis. This didn't work against any number of talented guards and centers he had reps against. But maybe it'll work against Quentin Nelson, and he can workshop things he's actually tried in the NFL. And I'm really excited to see Kinlaw, and I think Ayuk's going to have a monster season, even though you have a lot of mouths to feed.
I agree, and that's a good point, is the fact that they have NFL film to study of themselves last season, and that's what I was saying, is they can look back and say, hey, maybe this didn't work, this technique wasn't working, maybe let me add this on this player, because again, last season they learned a lot being a rookie in the NFL, so they can kind of add certain tools to their repertoire or take away things from their toolbox, and then you can look at that film and be like, oh yeah, that didn't work against him, let me try this, and you're right, because when you're coming in as a rookie, you're studying film that you did, in college, and then you're trying to get film on a player that you're going to head up against, but you never played him, yourself. So you get a little bit more familiarity. And then Brandon Ayuk, looking at his film against some of these cornerbacks that he played, I think he's going to be like, okay, this cornerback I'm playing, I can, study him. Like this year, Jalen Ramsey, I think he's going to match up a lot with Ramsey, and that's a guy that he wants to really understand Ramsey's film, so when he goes up and plays one-on-one with him, he's going to be able to take him, take his chain from him and take the matchup out of him. So it's going to be fun. That's why I love training camp. Makes these players so much better and prepared for the season. And this offseason already is off to a better start with rookie minicamp than it was last season. So.
Yeah, for sure. And even jumping back to Ayuk for a second, this could be something as simple as noticing where Ramsey's weaknesses are, whether if you have a little jab here, jab there, how you work releases, and you can watch other NFL players, and you know these NFL players, and you've seen these NFL players in person. So someone like, say, Justin Jefferson, you're going to play him later in the season, of course. So you're going to have this different understanding of how is Jefferson successful, and how can you emulate that to be successful? Or when you play Seattle, how is Tyler Lockett successful? How is DK Metcalf successful? Or Arizona with DeAndre Hopkins? And I think there's a lot of room to grow for Kinlaw and Ayuk, and I'm really excited to see both of them continue to grow. I had them as highly rated draft prospects, and now, of course, for 2020, you get the weird year, and they're kind of doing things in reverse. That usually it's workshop and then play. This last year was play, and then this offseason you're going to workshop your NFL performance. And I think that's a unique opportunity, and I think it's an awesome opportunity that these players have this season.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, you get to look at what players are doing to, succeed against the players that you're going to go up against and use that to your advantage. So let's say Jalen Ramsey, he goes up against DeAndre Hopkins. You can look at DeAndre Hopkins' film and say, oh, okay, I need to add that to my toolbox. So when Brandon Ayuk goes up against them next time, he can do a little jab step, boom, stutter, like Hopkins would and beat Ramsey, and then he'll be the one that's leaving the day saying, "Hey, look at me! I just took care of Jalen Ramsey." So it's gonna be interesting, man, and I'm excited for this, everybody really on this team, but those two specifically because they were the 2 first-round picks last season. They had pretty solid rookie years, and everybody expects them to take this jump and become like really, really good players in the league. Especially Ayuk. I think everybody expects him to be like a superstar, So it's gonna be fun to see.
So speaking of superstars, one of your superstars, Nick Bosa, probably the premier guy on your roster. Well, Kittle or Bosa, pick your poison.
I would say on defense, yeah. Well, maybe Warner too.
Sorry. So Bosa didn't play much in 2019, torn ACL week 2, if I remember correctly.
Or 2020, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my mistake. So he's coming back. This is really his year 2 in a lot of ways. So he's going to have this jump, and he's going to skip over that sophomore slump, although he was spectacular as a rookie. And pass rushers as good as Nick Bosa don't just like fall off. Like Max Crosby, for example, I think he led the draft class in sacks in 2019, but a lot of that was from a couple games, and a lot of that were like cleanup sacks that it's not really Max Crosby doing anything, but Nick Bosa was dominant essentially from snap number 1. The sack production matched it. If you care about sacks, the pressure production was off the charts. He's on like it's Von Miller, O.C. Umenyiora, and Nick Bosa in terms of like playoff production from a pressure standpoint. It's unbelievable. And I'm excited to see Bosa back. And if there was a year that you miss from injury, it's probably 2020 because you're not probably in the right spot to begin with. So if you just scratch that year off and you say, okay, you're going to get a full recovery, you're going to come back and have a normal offseason, I think this is great for Bosa. Obviously, you hate to see him get injured and hate to see a year wiped from his production, but I think this is a low-key blessing in disguise that in a year that San Francisco really struggled, Bosa didn't have to play a million snaps for a team that was 6-10, right? He played 50 snaps for a team that went 6-10, and then this year he can play 1,000 snaps for a team that's going to go 12-5.
Most likely, yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, the injuries sucked, but you limited the wear and tear on him. Of course, he didn't get that year to develop. So this essentially is his second year. So this is going to be a big, big year. Hopefully he can return from that injury and be the same player. And I think he can. And from what we've seen, so far, uploaded videos that he's provided, he looks pretty explosive. He looks like he's ahead of schedule from my point of view as a physical therapist. I looked at that and I was like, man, I can't believe he's doing what he's doing at this point in his recovery. So I think he's going to be very solid. I think he's going to come back and he's going to be able to do what Nick Bosa can do. The only thing is mentally, how's he going to be able to recover? I think that's always the biggest aspect of recovery. But I feel like he's in a good space. He's in a good place. He just trains hard. They always say built different. This guy really is built different. Nick Bosa is a physical specimen, and he looks like he's just still in peak performance, peak physical shape, and it looks like that hasn't changed much. So I think Bosa is going to be a very, very, very big time part of this team. And I think I know we may not see a lot of him in the training and everything because he's going to be going through his rehab, but this season, again, like you said, that was kind of frustrating for Niner fans losing him, and it kind of set the tone. But again, it was a tough year. We lost a lot of players. He did limit all the strain on his body. Of course, he had to go through rehab on a tough season. And that's really true for everybody. You had Kittle go down, you had Debo go down. All these guys were battling with whatever injuries they had. And it was a tough year. So maybe it kind of was a blessing in disguise. Everybody's coming back healthy. And not only that, they're coming back with the chip on their shoulder, and they're playing to prove themselves because a lot of people are counting us out. Like we said, Bleacher Report, 8-9. And that's the thing. These players play with a lot of pride, and especially this team. They have a lot of pride. They know they're a good team. 2 years removed from a Super Bowl, I think they feel like they could come back and get right back there. So as long as they're healthy, Nick Bosa, everybody, really, it's sky's the limit. So we're going to see what happens, man. And I'm excited that I think this team, like you said, 12 wins, that's very doable. I think this team, like I said, my prediction is 13 wins, but I'm just excited to see some football soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to see everyone's back, everyone's healthy. And even Bosa, he's 8 months removed now from the ACL tear. By the time the season begins, he'll be a full 12 months removed. So if there is a silver lining, he was injured in September.
Yeah, that's
the
the only silver lining that you could take out of this injury. And I've said that before, is the fact that it was so early. I think it was allowed him to kind of progress and make that recovery. So he should be back fully 100% by week 1. If he would have had this injury week 8, week 9, towards the end of the season, he might not be back for that early part of the season. Or you start rushing and then you start training harder and then you can tweak something here and then you injure something. So the fact that his injury happened early in the season, definitely a blessing in disguise, because he had the whole season, the whole off season, pretty much the whole NFL season to recover and, get back in shape. So by the time week 1 rolls around in September, I mean, he should be back 100%. That's a whole year pretty much. And a year after ACL recovery, I mean, you should be ready to rock and roll. So.
Absolutely. And you can look at other injuries around the league. Ronnie Stanley and Nick Boyle are the ones close to me. They were injured in November. So that's 2 months later in the process that maybe Baltimore's like, well, we want them in camp. We want them to do X, Y, and Z. We need to have them week 1. So Baltimore might be under a little bit of a will they, won't they of, do you force Stanley back? Do you try to push him along in his recovery? And probably you don't want to, but if you don't think you're going to be able to win with the current roster, you might say, hey, Ronnie, pick up the pace a little bit, and with Bosa and the 49ers, I don't think you're going to have to do that, because I know from what I know about ACL injuries, the first year is a little screwy generally. The second year you're fully recovered, but these generally you can be back maybe around the 8-month mark. So 6 to 10 months, sometimes 12, and then you're fully recovered and you're back to your normal play in the second year. So Bosa's already 8 months in, so he should be finishing up the rehab process. So he's going to be back for a lot of camp. Might even play preseason. I don't know how much Shanahan would want to play him in the preseason.
Yeah, he probably won't play. It'd probably be smart. You don't want to rush him in and then get hurt and then screw yourself. But you're right. As far as his rehab progress, he should be. I think he's a little ahead of schedule, just what he looks like on those videos. But he should be around the point where he's getting back acclimated, getting his conditioning, and do football-related activities. And again, he's a super athlete, so most people might heal in a certain, let's say 8 to 10 months. Bosa might be able to heal in 6 to 8 months a little bit faster, because he's just a physical specimen. He's a freak, man. And that bodes well for him. And he's recovered from the injury before. In high school, he tore his ACL. So I think he knows what to do to get back to where he needs to be at peak performance, So he'll be ready.
So to put a bow on this, I'm going to gun to your head. Does Nick Bosa sack Jared Goff week 1?
Oh, without a doubt. He's going to come for blood. He's going to sack him. And I'm going to throw a little extra caveat there. Fred Warner's going to get another interception.
Ooh, okay. You love to see that. You love to see that.
You got to feel bad for Goff, because he gets traded to the NFC North, the Lions, away from the division, and he still has to face the Niners. And they've been a thorn on his side, man. So I hope we just dominate this guy. I think Bosa will have a sack on him. I think Fred Warner will have a pick on him. And I think the Niners are going to crush them at least by 15 points. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's probably the worst spot for Goff to be traded, because if you don't get traded, you're still on a pretty loaded Rams team. But you get traded, and not only do you get traded to probably the worst team in football, at least when Deshaun Watson, I don't know what the heck's going on with the Watson thing. The worst team as a whole outside of quarterback is probably Houston, but Houston still has Deshaun Watson, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But Detroit is a horrendous team. They're almost entirely devoid of talent. And you go to there now, and you're just sitting there, and you're going to throw to Quintez Cephas, who I like, but he's Quintez Cephas. So you're going to be throwing to Quintez Cephas all year. Oh, yeah. And then you look at the schedule, and you get Arizona again. You get a loaded Rams team. You get San Francisco, who always destroys you, and you get Seattle again. You're probably losing those games, and you're going to get wiped in the division with Minnesota, Green Bay, and Chicago.
Yeah,
so that's already 10 losses really there. And it's going to be ugly, I think, in Detroit. And I do feel bad for Goff. This is not really what you want from your former number one overall pick. And the wild thing is, he's only 5 years removed from being that number one overall pick and being a guy that the Rams traded the farm for. And I guess it kind of worked. They did go to a Super Bowl, but here they are trading the farm for Matt Stafford.
That's their MO, right? They like to trade the farm for everybody. And
I mean, they whip on all their
one
picks
guy,
anyways.
get the next guy. But you're right, man. Jared Goff cannot escape the NFC West, and it's gonna give them nightmares. And they're a rebuilding team, new coach and everything. You know, they're trying out. At least they got a veteran quarterback. I guess it's better than some of the options they could have had, but I think they're in for a long season, man. And you're right, the weapons that he has in Detroit are definitely not the same that he had in LA. So I mean, I like Hawkinson. Not at all. I think I like TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I love
Hawkinson. I mean, they traded away their wide receiver 1. It's gonna be
Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what they're doing with the offensive line. Penny Sewell is an A+ pick for me. I like that they drafted not one but 2 talented interior defensive guys. I like that.
Yeah. They're building some strong positional things units here and there, but they're a long way from being a very competitive winning team. But hey, that's not my problem. I'm glad the Niners are doing good. So
absolutely.
Any other final questions or concerns here?
Yeah, my only concern is my laptop screen's frozen. From a football aspect, everything's good on my end.
Yeah, it's been kind of in and out a little today. Yeah. It's been a little off.
Oh man. I have the spinning beach ball of death right now, and my live stream is still on 2143.
Oh man, that's a struggle. Yeah.
Oh man,
your computer's telling you it needs a break.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. We might end up being on the air a lot longer than the next 30 seconds because I need to figure out how the heck to shut this down. But anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow Raj at OurSF 49ers. I got it right this time. Woo. Shoot him a message. Say the 49ers are going to win 17 games. Make him happy.
Oh, I mean, I'd be happy if we do, but let's hold our expectations a little bit. I would 17 wins. I'm all for it, but you're gonna lose a few games here and there.
Yeah.
So
then you have the pressure like the 07 Patriots.
Yeah. Then they came in and lose the Super. Can you believe that? You go undefeated all season. Mm-hmm. Here comes the playoffs, and then you drop a stinker. That's tough, man.
Yeah, that's tough. As far as I know, the best team ever in all 4 major sports ended up losing. So the 73-9 Warriors lost in the finals. The 16-0 Patriots lost in the Super Bowl. I think the 96 Red Wings and the 2019 Lightning are peak hockey in the 82 game era, and both of them lost early.
I think the only team to go dominate the season in any sport and then win the championship was the Bulls.
They held the record for a long time.
Yeah, 72-10 Bulls. Crushed it. That team was so good, man. The Jordan-led Bulls. But you're right. The Warriors, they beat their record, and everybody thought they were going to go in and win those finals. And
I wish I had some more Cavs stuff behind me. I don't really think I have much. I have a Cavs sticker. I have the 50th anniversary. I don't have anything on my table. Yeah. Well, I need more Cavs stuff, and I think we need to do a basketball show during the playoffs. So, anyways. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's always a blast, at least until my laptop forgets how to function. Thank you, Raj.
Yeah.
Best of luck to your 49ers this year, and we'll be back next Saturday when my laptop decides to, breathe.
Hopefully it works, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I would like to say peace out. But, this is the dumbest thing ever. I've had the beach ball... I was going to pull up a clip of the Lenore interception.
Yeah.
And, everything just stopped.
Yeah, it's been it was weird. There was times where I was talking, but then your video, it still showed you were talking, but there was no sound. So it was really bad audio. Or the video was off today, I could tell. Yeah. It was like a bad dubbed Chinese movie.
Okay. That's funny. I wish it was funny, but this
it's
sucked.
Not. Yeah. Any case. Yeah. Hopefully we can fix it out, but
absolutely.
Head out.
All right. Peace.
All right, my man. Let me know if you need anything. Take care. Get that computer fixed.
Peace. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.